Well, Wisconsin Democrats have done it again. Today, they have introduced a bill that is 164 pages and strikes out the word mother at least 370 times. Hi, everyone. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is Moms for Liberty Unplugged. And today I'm with my friend Alex, who is a chapter chair from New Jersey. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
And we were just talking off air, and I thought, well, we should do this on air because this is what makes us different to talk about. We were talking about the school year, and you said you wish the school year was different. What were you saying?
Yeah, I do wish it was different. I mean, obviously, I think we know at this point we need to completely change the whole model. But, you know, for the people that do maybe do public school, I'd love to see it like 7 months out of the year. You know, just spending more time with the families. Why do they have to be in like most of the year away from us? And then maybe a little later in the day too. So many kids need sleep. Like just let them sleep till 9:30 and go to, you know, go in at 10. I just think we're totally messing with their circadian rhythms. They need to grow. It's gorgeous out. You know, we have these crisp mornings, but then it's like 90 degrees midday. Like, let's just be outside with them more. I don't know. I'm sure you feel the same way. You were running around this morning.
Yes, I was. Well, my teenager, when school starts, she starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's really early. And then my 8th grader has to be at school by 7:50. But I'm talking, if they have to take the bus, which mine don't, but if they do, they're up 5 a.m. There's sometimes bus routes where the kids have to be at the bus route by 6 a.m. These are teenagers, and studies show that teenagers do better if they get more sleep and they sleep in. So the way that it's working, but then there's after school practices and all of that. So I think the whole school day is based on the fact that there's, you know, things after school, but maybe it's too long. I also
way too long.
It's based on kind of becoming a daycare. So that a lot of parents, if two parents are working, they need school to be that long because they have to work outside of the home. So that's where I think it's hard to change what's happening in schools, because so much is built around our current school system, which hasn't changed at all since the 1800s.
And our needs have changed so much. I agree with you. And this just opens up a whole nother discussion about the fact that, you know, it used to be back in the day, one parent was home or at least worked only part-time and was able to be home when the kids were home. And so I totally agree with you. But we are totally messing with them. I mean, they really do need to sleep in. And then not only do they have school all day and then sports all day, and a lot of them when they're older have jobs, then they have hours of homework on top of that. What are they getting? 5 hours of sleep, if that? I mean, it is. And what are we teaching them? We're teaching them to get ready for these, you know, 12-hour shifts working for somebody else. So we just need to change that whole system. But I think that just comes with changing the world too. And saying, hey, you don't have to work 9 to 5. You could open a business. You could be an entrepreneur. You could, you know, think outside the box. And I think a lot of us are starting to do that, which is showing our kids that they can do that too. So, you know,
yes. It's a whole system change that we've got to now there's some jobs where obviously that you're in customer service, there you work these certain hours, but maybe changing the way you do shifts and being accommodating to parents of younger children. There's all sorts of different things that I think that we could do, but the way that we do school, and I saw this meme, and I actually heard someone talk about this in a podcast, where that it's just based on this old this old thinking where we were getting kids ready to work an assembly line or work in a plant and to when a bell rings, that. And when I heard this analogy, I was like, oh my gosh, that's true. That this really outdated everything. We've modernized everything, we change, but school system is pretty much the same as it was at the turn of the century. And a lot in other countries, they do things differently. I think we can reimagine the way school looks. I've read studies that kids really only learn for so many hours in a day, like that they're capable of really learning. And then after that, it's kind of all just fluff and filling time.
They're there for, like you said, they're there for the babysitting. That's it. And that's why like homeschooling is so different. That's why we're fighting for it in New Jersey right now because we're one of the easiest states to homeschool in, although they are coming after us. So we are getting ready to fight back about that. But, I think it's kindergarten to second or third grade. I believe it's like a half hour to 45 minutes. And then, the second half of elementary school, it's like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And then middle school is an hour to 2 hours. And then high school could be like, 2 to 4+ hours, of course, depending on what you're studying, of course. But that just shows you right there how little time that they're actually learning in a 7 or 8 hour, period. And what's happening the rest of the time in that school day. We can totally, reimagine that. They could be doing learning how to do a garden, how to cook, music, art, life skills, right? This would all be age appropriate. But this is something we're actually really working on this in New Jersey, like school choice. We want school choice and how we could break up the school day differently, even maybe doing academics half the day and then life skills the other half of the day, and then switching the students around. So some would do academics AM and then life skills PM, and then switching that. And then this way, the teachers are still teaching a full day. The classes are smaller, but the kids are learning more and they're learning life skills. So
that's interesting. I think there's classical academies where they are doing that, where the kids will have their academic learning, where they're stationary, they're memorizing, all of that stuff. And then they'll do a garden, they'll build things. Even very young kids, they learn life skills, they're feeding the animals, they're learning how to build things, they're STEM, but they're applying it in the real world in a way that's age appropriate. I think that's great. I volunteered when my kids were younger. I volunteered a lot in classrooms, and you could just see that at a certain point, and that's what you have to have a lot of recess, a lot of outside time. And during COVID, when they took that away and how miserable it became in schools, it was really obvious. But kids need to be outside more. And you know what? Why, when they get into middle school, they stop recess. They don't get fresh air anymore. They don't get that break, that time.
Right.
Their lunches are like 15 minutes. And sometimes in my district, my daughter last year had a lunch hour at 10:20. 10:20 was her 20-minute lunch time. Like, she's not hungry at 10.
Right. That's wild. Yeah, their eyes sort of glaze over,
Yeah.
They're done. They're out.
I'm drinking my iced coffee because my eyes will glaze over.
Yes, my eyes were definitely glazing over. I will tell you, during COVID, a half hour into the first virtual learning. And that is when I decided, to homeschool at that point. I was like, oh, we're not doing this. This is when school can be back to normal. We'll go back, but this is not learning. My head was literally, there's a picture of my husband took of my head on the table with my coffee mug and my two kids next to me with their little headsets on. And I was done. And it was a half an hour in. So,
well, I saw, and they were like, we're done. And I'm like, so I'm sure you have homework. No, it's done. And I go in Google Classroom and I'm like, well, now we're going to have mommy school. And by the end of a month, they were like, mommy school is hard. I don't want mommy, because I'm like, well, we're going to write papers. We're going to read more books. We're going to watch some documentaries. Your handwriting is atrocious. We're going to practice that. We're going to and bought all of these different like apps, and I had piles of books to teach, okay, how do I teach them this, and that? And yeah, so that's when my whole view changed. I was like, it's not only what they were learning, but what they weren't learning, and
Yes.
what was becoming acceptable, that they couldn't spell, like the papers, they didn't have complete sentences. And so yeah, then mommy school was born, and
I love it.
they didn't necessarily love that, but it was a time, like, I had the time, and
Yeah.
they missed their friends, they needed the normalcy, they needed their
Right.
activities, they needed to go back to school and have their normal lives, because I could see, while I was able to supplement education, it was harder to get that social aspect. We worked
Yeah.
we did our best trying to, we didn't follow the dictates. We met, we had over,
Right.
it was kind of a secret code you had to make, like, are you okay with your kids, blink twice if so that you get kids together. And
Yeah. The pods. They were like
there's
your
no masks
pod.
in our
No,
house.
but this is our pod. It's
We're not
okay. We only
testing.
hang out with each other.
Yeah. And we're not testing. If you're a tester, then no, we're not.
No, we just escaped to our lake house, which is where we're at right now. And it was as if it didn't exist here in this part of Pennsylvania. And so everyone just hung out, and nobody wore masks, and there was none of this. So we were lucky in the sense that they were extremely socialized still. So they didn't really, and even their friends in school, like we had a cool group of friends. They were like, this is nonsense. We're not doing this either. So we were very lucky in that sense that even though we were homeschooling, they still were like 100, probably honestly, actually more socialized than they normally would be in school. Because in school, it's like, don't talk to your friends, be quiet, like pay attention. Don't, for 8 hours a day. We only had to do school for about an hour a day at home. At that time they were 5 and 7. So it was much less work. And so we actually got outside way more. So we loved it. But different times.
There's yeah, I had my family and developed our moms group. Before we were Moms for Liberty, we had created just a parent group on Facebook, and eventually we started to get together and take our kids to the park and do things and create our own little thing. In Wisconsin, we were lucky because our state Supreme Court, May 2020, had basically overruled current, he's our governor, his term's almost over, Governor Evers' emergency shutdown, lockdown order. And so we were kind of free to do what we wanted, but private establishments could choose to be closed or require masks, and schools could continue to be closed and have masks. So if they were open, we try to do it. There was basketball, there's things that we did. Thinking back, I've talked to a lot of moms, and we're like, if we knew then what we know now, we would have created like almost a commune and had a school, and just like tuned everything out, found a farm, and just brought all the kids back.
Yes. We'll be in the same boat as you. If it ever happens again,
oh yeah,
we know what to do. I mean, that was it. It was, you didn't know. It was like, 2 weeks, then a month, then you're like, what is happening to our world? But now we know. So
yeah, they would have to really come down hard, because I would never submit. I wore a mask for a little while, like out of respect for I didn't believe in it, but I was trying to not be a disruptor, try to be respectful. I know old people are scared. And I'm a rule follower. I used to be very much a rule follower. Like, we have rules, you follow the rules, you listen to your teacher. And I always raised my kids that way. And I still always be respectful, because most teachers are, they're good and they're doing a job that's difficult. But I realize that you've got to sometimes be a disruptor. So
that's what you have to.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about a little bit of origin story. I know if you've done the Fire of Liberty show with Moms for Liberty CEO Tina Deskovich. So if you want to know Alex's full story, or even mine, because I was her first guest, you can tune in to the Moms for Liberty YouTube channel and watch our origin stories there. But if you want to give a little bit of your background for everyone.
Sure. Well, you would be, I am the disruptor. I am not a rule follower. I 1,000% believe in being respectful, especially towards our elders and, police and all of that. But because of the way that I grew up, I definitely question everything. And just because you're, an authority, for instance, or there's a rule, I'm going to question it. I definitely had, a little bit of a troubled childhood. I did not get along with my parents. School was awful for me. I did not learn in that environment of 7-8 hours a day. I certainly didn't learn the way that I was being taught. And, I just didn't have the help that I needed. And so I did get sent to a boarding school at 14 to 18 in Maine, the Alon School. And it was shut down eventually. It took many, many years. We worked really hard to get it shut down, getting the stories out. I went from 94 to 98. So there really wasn't like the internet, we weren't sharing information like that back then. But once we were able to, we were able to get the stories out about the school. And it was just, any way that it could be abusive, it was. And it was run by people that were not qualified. And so I learned very quickly to not trust just because someone's a teacher, just because it's a school, or, just because I'm told that this is the right thing to do. Well, it may not be the right thing to do. And I lived that for 4 years. You don't go home for summer. You don't go home for Christmas. You're just there. And that had a huge impact on my life. I didn't really speak out about it for many years, because when you leave a situation like that, you're just in survival mode. You're like, okay, now I'm 18 and I know nothing about the world, and I need to go to college and provide for myself. And I just don't know how anything works. And so you're sort of in survival mode for a few years. But it was really good for me when I had my own children, and I did become a mom young at 20. She was a surprise, but a wonderful one. And, being a parent, I think, saved me, because that's my favorite thing in the world to do. And I love my children. That's like the only people I really ever want to be with is my family. And so, then you start to question things for your kids, right? Because you're like, okay, I know how the world is, and I need to protect my children. So you start to question, the school that they're going to. All three of my kids went to the best preschool in our area, and they just had a wonderful time and wonderful outdoor play, led their life. And they just had such an incredible upbringing. But then you don't question public school, right? Because we're sort of brought up, even though I had this experience, you're sort of brought up to not question the public school system. That's the system that they're supposed to go into. That's what is best for them. So I did, start my kids after their preschool in public school. And so, but you're busy, you're working, I was the same as you. I was always volunteering. I was always in the school, but you're not hearing the lessons, right? You're maybe helping out with lunch or the book fair or picture day or whatever. You're not in that day to day. And I think that that's what, when COVID, not to jump that far, but I think that's when all of us started to see what was going on in the classrooms and start to question things. But yes, I have always, I think, had a little bit more insight than maybe somebody who had a wonderful experience in school, or even a sort of okay one, just because of my bad experience in school.
Yeah, so your radar was up really early, but you were in a good school district, and and that's how it was for us. We specifically moved to an area to be in a certain school district, and thought, well, and I volunteered a lot. I thought I would see something. I did start moving my kids out of the public school when I just, for me, it was more about that it wasn't as rigorous as I thought that it would be. And we realized that there was a component like their religious upbringing and their morals that was missing. And so we started moving our younger girls to the local Catholic school. And then as soon as they were middle school, they would go to public school again. And that reversed to me, like then I just, with my 4 youngest ones, like middle school, elementary school, but then they went to public high school. So with my last one, we are looking at private high schools. So my 5th child, I have 5, and we're pretty sure that she's not going to go to public high school because it's exhausting. And, it's so much. And she's been in private schools her whole life that she really doesn't want to go to a public school. So
and it's changed so much. I mean, people will always make these comments like, well, I did it and it was fine. Well, first of all, I never want to, use that. Like, well, they could have a fine experience. I want them to have a wonderful experience, number one. But schools are nothing the way they used to be, and the things that they have to unlearn, right? Because they're seeing that in these schools, in these public schools, and some are definitely worse than others. I mean, our school district is considered one of the best in New Jersey, and we have teachers handing pronoun buttons out. So, what are they being taught there? And why are they considered one of the better schools? Like, what are they considering the best because we're diverse, or are they having a great education?
So the reason I have you on is because you've been in the headlines. You've been on every big conservative talk show on Fox News, on Newsmax, locally in your community, nationally syndicated shows. You're going to be doing a show right after you're done talking with me. So I'm just going to put that out there. A big story. There's a couple going on in New Jersey, but the one that I have been very interested in is the Girl Scouts expelled you. They basically said you're fired from your volunteer position of 7 years as a Girl Scout troop leader. You've sent me the photos. I won't put them all up because I don't want to show all the kids' faces, but you've sent me all these beautiful photos where you're camping, you're swimming, you're hiking, you're doing fun things at Halloween. Like, you're very involved. You love this troop. You've been for 7 years. You have one of your daughters is in the troop as well. And then you can tell the story, but you were fired by the Girl Scouts of Northern New Jersey. And it's an outrage. I was a Brownie. I was a Girl Scout. My younger girls were Brownies. They didn't go into Girl Scouts, but my brother, Boy Scout leader, I loved being in Girl Scouts. So I wanted you to tell the story of what happened in your community, which you say, like, your community in New Jersey is a more conservative community, right?
It usually is. Yeah. I mean, it's mostly conservative. The problem is that a lot of people just don't speak up and they just allow things to happen. And I will not allow that to happen. First of all, I'm a leader, not just, I was the Girl Scout leader for my troop, but also a cheer coach. And I help run the Bible club in my school. And, I just want to make sure that the kids are safe in every situation. I did it, for my kids, but all of the kids too. I wanted to make sure that the people that were around them were safe people and that were appropriate people. And then, and for the fun side too, it's okay to be like a tea party type of troop, but that's not my girls. They are hikers. They're rock climbers. They want to be outdoors and have so much fun. And I also wanted to make sure that that was the type of troop that was going to be led. And that is why I signed up to be the Girl Scout troop with 2 of my co-leaders who are also wonderful people. We have a teacher and then actually a police officer as well. So we had a lot of fun with our kids. And, the way, if people don't know how Girl Scouts works, is you have National Girl Scouts, and then we have Northern New Jersey Girl Scouts who answers to national. And then you have a service unit manager who runs the town and sort of like all the town events for the troops. And then you have your troop, right? So you're doing kind of your own thing. Yes, you're earning badges, and you're following sort of a gentle guideline of what to do. You can pick what activities to earn the badges, and we for years had so much fun, and really kind of did our own thing, if you would. It wasn't until a few years ago that the service unit manager, she had always booked the events at this one particular church, but it wasn't until a few years ago that we noticed really changes in the church that were in our faces, if you would. They may have been doing these things before and we didn't know about it, but now they were posting events, flying certain flags, and that was inappropriate for our children. You guys have to remember that Daisy is starting kindergarten, so you're working with 5-year-olds and all the way through high school, but all of the troops are going to these events. So you have, again, it's not appropriate for any child, but you have young children, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that are extremely impressionable, and they're trying to groom these young kids so that they're comfortable with seeing these images, and it's inappropriate, and it's not going to happen on our watch. So a few years ago, we went to a town event at this church, and there was a pride flag all of a sudden. And we're like, okay, this is interesting for a church, right? And then the progressive pride flag showed up, and that is all kinds of terms in there, right? Completely inappropriate, completely sexual, and does not belong around children. Then they hosted an event for a 13-year-old, a boy who was transgender, identified as a girl, to speak to all ages in our town about, their feelings about gender, and had pizza and ice cream and just invited, anyone to be there. So that was it. We raised concerns. We said, what is going on here? First of all, this is so inappropriate. We called the town because it was actually originally on the town page, Facebook page. And we said, well, what adult is in charge of this? And they said, no, there's no adult, like only this person will be running this event. And we said, well, this is inappropriate for children. They did nothing about it. They allowed it to happen. And that kind of showed you what was going on with the town, right? The changes that was going on with the town. To me, if you see something, you should say something. It doesn't matter that this church is a private church. Our community children are going there, and they're being shown these things, and we as a community should put a stop to it. So I put a post.
You can see in the background, you can see off to the side, these images are from the location where you could see the trans flag. So as you're talking, I'm putting up some of the imagery, but this is the location, this is the church, and that's just one of the flags. And then here, this was kind of the big moment where look at the LGBTQ pride. I'm a Girl Scout. This is the trans pride colors. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the LG, they took the LGB, right, the LGBTQIA plus, the whole thing. And you're obsessively focused on transgender, trans identities, gender identity. They don't even really talk about, gay, lesbian. Like that's like old news. It's all about trans. And that's why I know I've worked with groups like Gays Against Groomers, because they're like, hey, leave the kids alone. There's no need to shove sexuality and gender into the faces of these young kids. Like that's not appropriate. And it's not the job of a school. It's not the job of the Girl Scouts. That's in the family realm.
Correct. Yes, we love Gays Against Groomers. We work with them quite a bit, actually. And, they say the same thing. Don't tie us in with this stuff. We are just normal people, normal families. A lot, we have children too. And we don't talk to our children about this. This is inappropriate. And again, this is it's a parent's job to have these discussions with their children. And that's why I say, they'll be so quick to say, oh, you want to ignore what's happening or the people that are out there. No, I'm not going to judge you or what you do as an adult. on your adult time, but you are not going to be speaking to our minor children about it, and certainly not at school, at Girl Scouts, at any of these things. So that's why it was time to do something. It was time to say something more publicly, because privately wasn't working. We had asked them to take down the flags. They would not. They had the event. And so we said, okay, it's time to get this out there. So my first post originally had been about the flag, and it actually went viral. People were so upset. Why is this in front of children? The day before I did that post, parents were calling me very upset. They said, I just went to drop my child off and this flag was hanging over the door. One person's husband said, pull our daughter out. We don't want her part of this organization that would, host this at this church. So people were really, really upset about it. And the church just did not care. They just said, no, we're not going to promote hate here, because that's what they turn everything into. They don't look at it as that this is inappropriate for a child. They say, oh, you're being hateful. When did protecting a child become hateful? When did that become doing the wrong thing? It didn't. They just tried to sling like mud at you so that you'll be quiet. Well, we're not very quiet. We're going to continue talking about this until something is done. So that, kind of brought some awareness, but, they refused to take it down. It was in June when that post that you had just shared, when I said, under no circumstance will we be doing this. That post was actually originally shared by our service unit manager in Park Ridge from the Northern New Jersey Girl Scouts on our Park Ridge Girl Scout page. So like all the troops post there. And she said, I don't remember word for word, but, this is so wonderful and we're going to be doing this. And, all of Park Ridge is so happy and we're inclusive and all this other stuff. So again, started to get messages from people like, hey, Alex, like, because they know me, like, we're not doing this, right? Because they said like all of Park Ridge. And so I saw the post. And so I took the original Northern New Jersey post and just said, just to be, upfront with everybody, we will absolutely not be doing this. We will not be talking to our children about anything sexual in nature, because that is inappropriate. And, I'm honestly not sure which post got me fired because I'm a volunteer. Pretty sure it was that one though. But, it just
Can I ask how many posts that were like, I would imagine you're monitoring, how many other troop leaders, or even you said the regional leaders, how many times did they put things up that were political? Like, how many times have you seen social media where they're free to express their opinion, and nothing ever happens to them?
I have not seen anybody be as vocal as probably I have been, at least on social media. So I can't really say.
But the Girl Scouts group, the Northern, they put up the pride. They put that up.
Oh, Girl Scouts in New Jersey. Yeah, they do it all the time. I mean, all the time. And so they're able to vocalize their opinions or what they think is right freely with no problem whatsoever. And then the second I say, this is not happening, we are not doing that, which is my freedom of speech, right? Yeah. I was let go for that. And they do this knowing that a lot of Girl Scout meetings are held in churches that don't have trans pride flags. They're held in the basements of Catholic churches. Because when my daughters were in Brownies and Girl Scouts, it was at a Catholic school. And so they're in the basement of the school or in the basement of the church. So they are aware that they have a large segment of their members are Christians and they Jewish or different religions that don't believe in the whole transgender identity, and they're not going to teach that to their children. So it would be akin, in my opinion, to say, let's celebrate Eucharist together and let's all go partake. That wouldn't be right. That would, because there's a large portion of the girls that aren't Catholic and don't want to participate in Catholic rituals, but their demand, they're kind of saying, you will participate in our woke rituals. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're saying that we all have to be inclusive, right? But then they're not inclusive of how we feel, or, how a lot of our troop members feel. And this does go against quite a few of our religious members, and how do they feel about that? So it's okay when they do it, but it's not okay when we speak out freely. And I mean, I held my troop meetings in our school, after school, or in a pavilion, or in a park. We have a community center that they could use. And so unfortunately, our service unit manager is extremely woke and pushes this. She has made comments. They have made comments years ago about certain things that we've had to say, hey, you can't speak as a Girl Scout leader that way, and say that it covers all Girl Scouts, because it just doesn't. You shouldn't take that stance. If the message isn't coming, at the time from national, right, you should not be saying it that way. But unfortunately, a lot of the, national Girl Scouts, the Northern New Jersey, like, they're starting to take on this woke indoctrination of our children. And therefore, the leaders that are putting our kids at risk are almost celebrated. And then the leaders that are saying, hey, this is not safe for our kids, this is not okay, instead of even having a conversation with us about it and saying, like, well, explain why, they just shut you down right away. Like, so when I got the email to give them a call that I needed to have a meeting about my leadership role, I knew right away, because I've been doing this for 7 years. I've never gotten one of these emails. I actually called that day and I said, oh, I'd like to talk to someone. And she came back on and she goes, oh, you have to talk to these 2 specific people at this time. And I was like, okay, this is something here. And she got on and said, this is my name. I have somebody else in the room. This is her name. And just said, you will no longer be allowed to be a troop leader for your troop in New Jersey. Your social media posts, went against our Girl Scout code of conduct. You can no longer be a member. Your daughter can no longer be a member. I'm not sure what she did to deserve that. Certainly nothing. But
that's different. So your daughter, they said your daughter can't be a member.
My daughter can't be a member. They just earned their bronze awards. They worked really hard for 2 years, helping homeless animals. Like, all these questions go through your head. Like, does all of that go away for her? And she worked so hard with her troop. And they said, you can't go on the upcoming camping trip in a month, and, we'll refund you. I'm like, I care less about that. I care about the fact that, she's going to miss out on this. My troop is going to miss out on me leading them. Actually, I was supposed to be a guardian for another young girl that didn't have anyone to take her. I'm scrambling to find someone to take her for her. They just don't care about anything that they've done. They don't care about these kids. And that's what was really shown, that the children aren't the priority anymore. It's their woke, message that they have to get out. That's more important than these children. So interestingly, yeah, I'm sorry, what?
That's shocking. It's shocking that they not only said you're fired from your volunteer position that you've had for 7 years, leading the Girl Scout troop, doing a great job, outdoor activities, camping, horseback riding, canoeing, all of that, and you've enjoyed it. You've done a good job. No complaints. They've never called you before. Nope. But also to say that your daughter can no longer be a member of the Girl Scouts, punishing your daughter, that's despicable.
Despicable. Absolutely. Before I got upset, I was sad for a minute. I was sad for her. I was sad for the girls, because we've had such a wonderful time. I mean, we were entering our 6th grade year. So while some do this throughout high school, the majority would be done after 6th grade. In Park Ridge, high school starts in 7th. So their life sort of changes a little bit. So this would have been our big last year together, where the whole troop would have been intact. I don't know, maybe they would have stayed and we would have had fun for 6 more years. But that's kind of what you're thinking, because I watched it happen to other troops. So yeah, it's absolutely despicable. And on what grounds? Like, to me, that actually makes no sense, because she did nothing. So if she, as her own person, had done something against the Girl Scout code, you could be like, okay, well, that makes sense, but she did nothing. So what grounds do they have to get rid of an 11-year-old girl and say you can no longer be a Girl Scout member? So, they make no sense. I wanted to have a discussion about it. I said, you tell me which social media post. And they said, no, we're not at liberty to say which one, which was, that made no sense to me. They're like, there will be no discussion. We've met a few times and this is our final decision. So
what do you think will happen next now? Like, do you think that there's any chance that they would have a change of heart after all of this national media?
I know that they have not responded to like anybody, any of the news, any of the reporters. They have not reached out to me. The day that it happened, actually, the service unit manager sent out an email naming me and like in my name, and actually just said, just so you know, council let this leader go. She, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but like went and gets our code of conduct, which makes it sound awful.
Yeah.
And she did it. And I know why she did it. She wanted to do it on purpose. This is just the type of person that she is. And I actually messaged her right away. And I was like, this was disgusting what you did. I'm like, you had no right to do that. I was actually told by council that no one would be discussing it from Girl Scouts. So I'm like, you went against what they said that they were going to not do. At this point, I mean, Girl Scouts has changed. It changed years ago. I only stayed for my kids. I would never go back. I think that they should apologize. I think that they should take back what they said. Although I would not, I just wouldn't go back. I mean, there's wonderful organizations out there. The Heritage Girls keep reaching out to me. I'm thinking about starting like an adventure club for the kids, and that's it. Like just booking adventures as friends, and not dealing with all the other things, So
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I love that.
Something new. Why don't go back. They've gone woke. It's probably it's just not going to work. Start something new, do something different, because that's how they'll listen. Right now they think that they're the only group on the block, and I've also seen under our posts, hey, Heritage Girls, Adventure Club, start something unique to your community, do something else, rally the parents and say, you know what, we don't need the Girl Scouts. Their cookies are not good for you anyway.
They're not good.
I do like
They're not good for you. We're Maha moms. They're awful.
I know the caramel delights are so good, but listen, I will forego them. Like I'm done with Girl Scouts. So
everybody is done with Girl Scouts. People have pulled their kids out. They called to complain. They've said, "Give me back my dues." They're pulling them out. They're like, "What are we doing next?" And I'm not just feeling it from our troop or our town. It's everywhere. I can't tell you. It's easily been thousands of messages. I have not stopped with my phone. And because I want to give everybody the time, they took the time to message me and give me support and offer ideas. So I want to get back to everybody, but there's literally so much, and it's wonderful to see out there, but we're hearing a lot of the same stories from other people that, they had to leave. They went to other things because they weren't being supportive, that all this stuff was being shoved down their throats. So, I think something new would be like awesome. We're definitely going to be speaking to people though, to, some sort of legal counsel to deal with this, because I think unfortunately with a group like Girl Scouts, they only feel it in the pocket. That's it. That's the only place that they feel it. And, they've become greedy. Who charges a volunteer? I can understand a Girl Scout due, right, for certain office things or like whatever it is. But a volunteer, I'm volunteering my time. I'm volunteering, all this other stuff. And usually we paid so much out of our own pockets. Maybe a kid couldn't afford a trip or whatever it was. We made sure that everyone could go to everything. And it didn't come from Girl Scouts. It came from the leaders. And so maybe, sort of like the other woke companies, right? What was it, like Bud and all of them? Yeah. Like they felt it because they felt it in the pocket. So that's what I told everybody. I'm like, call them up, complain, do what it's going to take to make them feel and understand that our world isn't like this, that, the United States isn't like this. We're not going to stand by and let you indoctrinate our children. And we're not going to be a part of this anymore. So I think that's the most important thing. I've heard a few parents say, oh, well, but my daughter likes it, so we'll probably stay in. Well, then don't complain when they have issues in 3 years, or don't complain when something bothers you and then you want us to fix it for you. It has to stop now. You have to put your foot down now. There's plenty of other options out there other than Girl Scouts.
Yes, and I think that's why it's important for this story to go out, because maybe in your area, you're like, well, I'm not seeing this problem, but be aware, you're just one woke regional leader away from this happening to you. They just need one woke person to be in charge of your area. And suddenly you're going to be dealing with the same situation. It will happen. So start looking for other organizations where that you're not going to have this problem. And you're right. There's a lot of money in Girl Scouts. You have to pay dues. You have to buy badges. The cookies are like, I can't believe, like, so expensive now. They cost a lot.
And smaller.
Yeah. Less. So where there's money involved in this, and where's the money going? And instead, where there could be your time, your efforts, and the money could go into a different organization that more aligns with your values and actually cares about girls and wants to see them thrive and actually have really good experiences. And when I was in Girl Scouts, it was all about, outdoors, taking care of animals, doing things, because this was in Milwaukee, doing things that a lot kids in the city wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do, or, so that's what it's about. So kind of getting back to the roots of, fun, making bracelets, not going to a trans church and, kind of here's your cookies and here's your indoctrination and propaganda. Instead, you just kind of made bracelets and made friends and had sleepovers or something like that, fun like that. Right. Just simple. And keep it simple. If you're like me and you're not outdoorsy, you can teach them how to make bracelets.
Yes, listen, we went to pottery studios and, movies, Broadway shows. I mean, I have to say, we're very lucky. We're like a half hour of New York City. And so, but like a half, 15 minutes from hiking. So we kind of have all the best of these different worlds. And so I will say, our troop was extremely lucky that we got to do, we slept on the Intrepid 2 summers ago, I think it was. We slept in an aquarium. We really think of some fun things for these kids to do. So there's something for everybody, but you can start your own group. You don't have to put up with this nonsense to be a part of something. There's, find a friend who's naturally good at, maybe event planning or party planning, have her be in charge of the activities, our troop leaders, we all had different strengths, so one would be in charge of one thing, one would be the other. I was the activities girl, and it worked beautifully. So find 2 or 3 people to do it with and start your own thing.
Yes. Cooking, things like that. Yeah. You also are a chair of Moms for Liberty. So if you want to talk about that in the remaining few minutes, so that anyone who's listening, who's in your area, that they can join your kind of your troop, your chapter, and or become a national member, start their own chapter.
Yeah. So, I started my chapter in, I believe it was late March or early April 21. So, right in the beginning, we have an awesome chapter. There's a lot of us and everybody is super helpful with one another. You can go to momsforliberty.org and just, click on the map and you'll see New Jersey and then click on the county. I always say, if there's not a, become a national member if your county doesn't have one, but reach out to one of us because we help all, if there's a county that doesn't have a chapter yet, think about starting one, but we also help those counties out as well. If you could find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, it's all Moms for Liberty Bergen County. Also my name, Alexandra Bougher. We do have a chapter meeting this Monday a back to school chapter meeting, which I'm actually switching to Zoom because there's just too much stuff going on. But we're going to discuss opt-out forms for the upcoming school year and all the stuff that you need to know. So we can connect via Zoom this Monday. That would be great. And yeah, just, remember that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. You don't have to send your child back to school if there's something wrong or you feel uncomfortable about it. You don't have to vaccinate. There are religious exemptions. There are medical exemptions. You don't have to put your child in any situation that you feel uncomfortable with because you feel like you have to. You don't have to do any of these things. You are in charge. You are the parent. So always remember that. I'm here to help. Please send me a message. And one big thing I would like to point out, we are throwing a nice big press conference on Thursday. We're going to be inviting some wonderful assemblymen, women, senators, the gubernatorial candidate for New Jersey, and we're going to be taking a stance on parental and homeschool rights. So that's really exciting. And if you'd like to join, it is family friendly. Just reach out to me and I'll give you the details.
When is that press conference again?
Thursday, the 28th at 9 a.m.
Wow. Are you going to do that at the Capitol in New Jersey?
We're actually doing it in front of the Statue of Liberty because
wow.
Yeah, we wanted to do something that represented, I think, all of the parents and we're all freedom lovers and we all have parental rights. And while the Capitol is great, this is more of a symbol, I think, of what we're fighting for. So that is why we're having it there. It'll be outdoors. I actually think so many people have RSVP'd to it. We have all the major news outlets coming. So it's going to be a really awesome time, but it's again, family friendly. We'll have water, juice boxes, snacks for the kids. And they'll be welcome to stand, behind the speakers and join in as well.
That's amazing. I'm taking my daughter to her dorms, but I'm like working out the time because there's an hour time difference. Because it would be cool if we had you on like live while you're there, because that sounds amazing.
We will be live.
maybe we can set something up live. At the very least, take lots of pictures and videos so that you could come back next week, Friday. Maybe we could talk about what happened and show pictures and video, because that's huge in front of the Statue of Liberty. That's going to be a big event. That's wonderful. Great job.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very excited. It's like everything's falling into place. We're very excited. So I think it'll be great. And, I think we're going to flip New Jersey, and that's what we need to do, because right now, President Trump, who I absolutely love, has put in some wonderful changes throughout the United States. However, a lot of it falls back to the states. And unfortunately, with Governor Murphy, there's, we fight, we never give up, but, it's hard moving. So if we can change in this election that we have in November for a governor who's going to fight for parental rights and homeschool rights and great families in New Jersey, I think we're really going to change this state and have a wonderful life for all of our families. So we're really excited.
Well, your lips to God's ears, right? So that's a great way to end this. I think that's fabulous. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next week. That's amazing organization. And that just shows, what working with Moms for Liberty, other groups, what you can do, the kind of change you can make, and the relationships you can develop with the leaders in your community. And it's awesome. So congratulations on all of that. Good luck. And I can't wait to see it.
Well, and good luck moving into the dorms. I have been there. It is, it's an exciting day, but a little sad
too.
Sad. But more exciting.
She's excited. I'm sad, but I still have
exciting, and all the shopping is exciting.
Yes. A lot of that's what I'm going to
enjoy that day.
Yes, yeah, that'll be fun. She's going to kick me out probably. Like we'll go in and then boom, like I can help decorate, and then she's going to want me not to hover, I'm sure.
Oh no, then you have to leave. You can take them food shopping, and like all the shopping that they need, and then you need to, they'll let you take a picture because they'll be generous, and then you have to leave.
Yes, and then I'll get calls later, but so. All right. Well, Alex, it's great to have you on. Let's talk next week because I want to hear
Yes.
how the event went. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of positive publicity and then a lot of the haters. It should be pretty interesting there in New Jersey, but who
We're
cares?
used to them.
Listen, I know, and they don't realize, but they're only kind of helping show that we're normal and
Yep.
they're crazy. So
That's right.
let
That's
them do
right.
their
It shows people actually that maybe are on the cusp of waking up. It actually kind of brings them to our side. Like they're like, I never realized it got so bad, or I can't believe people are like this. So
Mhm.
keep it up. Doesn't bother us.
Nope, it doesn't bother us. All right. Well, Alex, we'll talk next week.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Have a great day.
That was a great talk with my friend Alex. Really inspiring lady. That's amazing what she has planned for next week, Thursday, in front of the Statue of Liberty. So it's just amazing what regular moms are doing, just in 2021, like she said, 2020, 2021, she was a mom, had 3 kids, never thought that she'd be someone in the spotlight, someone who is managing media and managing like all that she's doing, a big leader in New Jersey, fighting for change in her area. So my hat's off to her. She's great. Such a great person, beautiful inside and out. And when I close off, I'm going to end with a segment that she, of her talking to the media, as well as what I've been doing lately, a closing segment on the Moms for Liberty National Joyful Warriors Summit, which is coming October 16th through the 18th. And if you have not yet registered, you definitely need to register. It's going to be great. We are starting to announce speakers, and it's going to be fabulous. So, and if you want to know more about that, you just go to momsforliberty.org. If you want to hear more about Alex's origin story, watch the Fire of Liberty show with Tina Deskovich. Right here, I posted the link to our YouTube channel. I was her first guest on the show, so you can watch a little bit of my origin story. And Alex was very soon after me. Just this week, Tina interviewed Jennifer Say of XXXY Athletics, and I always learn so much when I watch her podcast because her show is really just sit down, face to face, in person, and get to know these great people. These people, they were regular people just like you and me, and then they did something great. Now Jennifer Say was a Olympic athlete. Then she became she had a great career, great job. She loved her career, and then COVID happened, and she sacrificed all of it just to stand up for truth, to stand up for kids, to do what's right. And then she really started to stand up for women and girls and protecting women's sports and protecting Title IX. So she's an inspiration, and her clothing line XXXY is one of my favorites for casual wear and athletic gear. And her t-shirts are comfortable and they make a statement and they're pretty and they fit nice. So I highly recommend XXXY. And so this is the conclusion of the Moms for Liberty Unplugged. I hope you enjoyed this. And I think that it's just so wonderful to see moms, to see women that are, right on the right. They're conservative, they're compassionate, they're moms, they're fighters, and to amplify what they are doing and how they are change makers. And I hope that it inspires you to also be a change maker in your community and to stand up and fight against this radical woke indoctrination. And it's time to get back to normal and make America normal again. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. Right now, let's watch this clip of Alex.
They had a trans identifying 13-year-old come and do a event there, promising music, ice cream, pizza. And I couldn't even bring my troop to these town events because it was completely inappropriate for children to see. They shouldn't be around anything sexual. I called them out on it. This past June, they said, all the troops are going to be doing this LGB, however many letters are in that, and encouraging that all of the town troops would be doing it, saying, yes, Park Ridge, encourages this. And I shared it because a lot of parents were quite upset. They said, one parent said, my husband wants me to pull my daughter out of Girl Scouts.
Wow. You look at that. It's crazy what's happened to an organization like the Girl Scouts. So it's time for change. There are alternative organizations. If there isn't, start one. And now, again, goodbye. Have a great day. We're going to end to talk about the Moms for Liberty National Joyful Warrior Summit.
Elena, what state are you from?
New York.
Hawaii.
I'm from Texas, Washington. I have my kids actually with me to do the march.
Wherever I go, odds are there is a Moms for Liberty group or a whole tribe in the room sounding off loud and proud.
And you could see the passion here because it's about supporting kids.
Pledge to each other that we will live like men and women who are determined to remain free.
I'm for parental rights all the way.